Welcome to Raging Bullets, a DC Comics fan podcast, episode 341. Welcome to Raging Bullets. I'm Sean Whalen, drnorge, and I'm joined as always by my co-host Jim. Is that my face in your party tray, or are you just happy to see me? So says the sensei of the Whatnot Segulin, or the Duke of You-Know.
How's it going? Did not see how much I went outside.
On this episode, we're going to be talking about Batman number 17, and do we have a lot to talk about on this one. We also, at the end, talk about a couple really very quick, a couple of Kickstarters that are important to me that I wanted to shout out. We are proud members of the Comics Podcast Network and the League of Comic Book Podcasts. Sponsoring us this episode is DCBService.com and InStockTrades.com. Over at DCBService.com, they're doing another one of those DC New 52 bundles. It's 50% off. The bundle is $83.74. That's all 52 DC New 52 titles at 50% off. It's a really great deal for those of you that like to take a look at the whole line, or maybe every so often you're like, I'd like to kind of try the line to see where everything's going, see maybe if I want to, trade some of the titles I'm currently reading to try for something else. At 50% off, that's like if you're doing your normal shopping and buying them at 100%, this is a great way to save that money. Figuring you're not paying sales tax, you're just paying the half off and then shipping to get them to you. It's just a great, amazing deal. I want to remind everyone they're a Comixology digital partner. And if you haven't done it before, log in with your DCB service account. And when you go into your account settings, there is a spot there to link your Comixology account. And Jim, you're going to want to do this. Link your Comixology account to your DCB service account. Do your shopping through DCBService.com, and it's okay if you've already done purchases beforehand. When you link it, if you've done your shopping through DCB Services portal, you will start getting 5% of each of those purchases as credit at DCBService.com. And that's great because it starts to add up if you're doing a decent amount of digital shopping. And even if you're not, it's still change or whatever towards cutting down on maybe your shipping costs or something for that month. It's earning something more for something you already purchased, and I just think it's a great idea, and I really appreciate DCB Service doing that. But I thought that bundle was kind of neat. There's also the Absolute Superman Batman hardcover volume 1 at 50% off, $49.99. I love to shout out Absolutes when they're 50% off because those are $100 books that now are like the cost of a lot of normal hardcovers. So it's a great opportunity for you to pick that up. And over at InStockTrades.com, you can check out the Batman White Knight, Dark Knight trade paperback. This collects issues 17 to 25. Paul Cornell, Peter Tomasi, Judd Winnick, Gilliam March, Patrick Gleason, Scott McDaniel on art. Just a great creative teams. It's 208 page count. This is a $16.99 trade paperback. InStockTrades.com price $8.49. It's great for your Batman fan looking for a great fix. Also want to shout out the super cool Batman Night of the Owls hardcover. This collects Batman 8 to 9, Batman Animal number 1, Detective Comics number 9, Batman Dark Knight number 9, Batwing 9, Batman and Robin number 9, Red Hood and the Outlaws 9, Birds of Prey 9, Batgirl 9, Nightwing 8 and 9, and All-Star Western number 9. And this is that really cool crossover. It's $29.99 regularly. InStockTrades.com price of only $14.99. That's 50% off. If you didn't read this story, or if you're looking to get in a really cool collected volume, definitely go pick that up over at InStockTrades.com. Actually, if you get both of those volumes together, it's under $25. And that's one of the really cool things about InStockTrades.com, the ability to bundle and start saving some really great money on some great reading material. And James, what kind of a podcast are we?
Raging Bullets is a spoiler podcast. We go in-depth in the plot lines, story twists, and whatnot of the comic we're reviewing. So if you haven't read the book, you may want to come back later so you can better enjoy the show.
And without further ado, let's talk Batman 17.
So, who's got a camera? Ooh, get one of me and the kid first. Then you and me, then the three of us, and then one with the crowbar. Then...
Jim, for this special report, I wanted to talk about the conclusion of Death of the Family, Batman number 17, The Punchline. Scott Snyder is the writer, Greg Capullo on pencils, Jonathan Glapion the inker, FCO Placencia, the colorist. Richard Starkings and Comic Craft's Jimmy Betancourt on letters. Capello Placencia on cover. Tony Daniel, Matt Banning, and Tomio More on the variant cover. Katie Kubert, associate editor. Mike Martz, editor. And Batman, of course, created by Bob Kane. Apologies for name butchery because, oh my God, did this story play out so brilliantly. This is one of the first times I've done this, Jim. I grabbed the issue today digitally because, I told you, boy, with the crazy schedule and all that, I want to put out something, and I want it to be something that would be, of high interest, that, would be special, and to kind of like get this out like right on the day of would be really kind of cool. I normally start now reading from the first page and just kind of gradually make my way through and kind of delve into the story. I turned the page and I was looking for Alfred. And I kept turning, and I kept turning, and I kept turning, looking for Alfred. And that's my honest way that I did this. There was no waiting. I couldn't wait any longer. We haven't seen him. I was so deathly worried for him. So that was my initial approach. I won't call it a read-through. I'll call it frantic. But that's honestly what it was. I'm frantically looking for Alfred. So to say there was any continuity or any sort of rhyme or reason to what I did other than just let me flick, 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 flick. Where is he? Where is he? Oh, yes! And that's what my experience was. What about you? What was this like for you today?
Oh, this was for me, the first time I've ever, purchased the digital through, Comixology through DC BS. It was kind of neat. I just had to set up an account and go through all that stuff because I deal with the paper stuff, so I never really did this the digital side. So that's kind of interesting for me. And I picked up Batgirl and Batman and Robin because I couldn't wait for them. It's on its way. I was doing the tracking and all that, and so the physical issues are being delivered to me, but I couldn't wait on those either. So I picked up all three, and it's jumped right into it. I think I had a little bit more disciplined read-through than you did because while I was rushing, because I was the same as you going, oh my God, where's Alfred? Where's Alfred? I was able to actually go through my regular first read-through where I was reading the comic, and then second read-through, art appreciation, third read-through, again, another follow-up read. So I was actually able to, I was able to kind of discipline myself and stick to my normal approach.
I am very worried because of how well I know the Joker. The cover of this issue was brilliant. The tap dance between the two of them. I like it because it harkened back to that creepy dance scene with the guards dressed up as Batman and the Joker. But it kind of portrayed the whole tap dance of this whole thing and what the Joker was doing. This is easily, I see this being one of those short list stories that I will constantly reference. Like this, I already know. Next year for the holidays, I'm going to be giving this in hardcover format to friends of mine that don't collect comics regularly, but they're Batman fans. I've got our friend Bill. He's a Batman fan. He doesn't read monthly comics. Mainly, he relies on when I get him for holidays or for his birthday, a trade or a hardcover. And I'm very selective on what I get because as any comic fan would, I want to give somebody something where they really feel it's worthwhile. If they're going to share the comic experience and tell anybody about it, it's a story that they would recommend to somebody else. This one, without hesitation, I would give to anybody that is, no matter how casual or how hardcore of a Batman fan they are, this is a great story to give to just about anybody because I don't think there was a wasted moment in the whole thing. The play out and the intensity, we were all speculating about what this was going to be, and there were so many shocks and twists and turns and surprises the whole way through that this was just a sure reading joy. How did Snyder follow this up?
Yeah, how do you follow this? That's like the aftermath of Death of the Family is going to be huge, and he hit a home run. What do you follow up a home run with? Another one? Grand Slam. What's next? I'm very excited and very eager to see what is out the gate. What's going to come down the line, and it's just wow.
Well, we've had the Black Mirror that year of Detective Comics from him. Then we followed that up with the whole Court of Owls thing. and the talons and all that, which was just brilliant. And then this. I mean, this guy just really gets the whole thing. And the one thing that I really love and this is a testament to all of the various Batman creators that have been involved in this from the start of the New 52 on through present day. And when I say Batman creators, I'm talking about all the satellite books, all of the, I don't know what the proper terminology to call it, because I don't want to say anything that would diminish those titles, because part of my experience through all this has been really delving into every little bit and piece I can get where creators are expanding this story into their own titles. And that has been a great ride for me, because when you see what happens to the family throughout all this, it meant more to me because I got to see, what was happening with Nightwing and Nightwing, what was happening in Batman and Robin with Damian, what was happening in Batgirl with her, Red Hood and the Outlaws, how it tied into this. And that's, Detective Comics and the stories that were going on there. So many great creators. And don't forget Suicide Squad, Catwoman, I've got to be leaving stuff out.
Teen Titans.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you, because of Tim Drake. One of the great things about this, think about how many different creators we're talking about there, and yet every one of them addressed this story in a way that is very relevant to their characters and never detracts from the main story that Snyder was crafting here. That's really a testament to those creators, because I thought those stories stood on their own and yet enhanced what Snyder was already delivering there. This is to me how I prefer events to be. This felt like an event. This was like a Bat Universe spanning event, and it felt like an event. It felt relevant. It felt like it's going to have a lasting impact in those titles and here. And that was something for me that just it really felt special. And there was no issue of any of this that I felt like, wow, I could have done without that.
Oh, I'm sitting here nodding my head, as you're going on, because this was this monumental type of event that happened, and it's a monthly title with. It's a crossover, and but it's not just. You could just read the one title and be happy and get a great story out of it. But we got so much more because we were reading all those other titles, and this is one of those that's on my list of when the hardcovers come out, I'm going to get them. When the absolutes come out, I'll probably buy it again in absolute format. I'm really curious to see how they're going to bundle everything together. If they're just going to do the Batman Death of the Family stories and the others will each have their own separate, or will they combine them all together? Is it going to be just this mega omni version of it with everything, together, or will it be separated, or how are they going to put this together? Because that's where I'm thinking, because I'm already planning on picking this up in hardcover just for rereadability and just for, sheer my, again, enjoyment of it.
Yeah, it's funny part is a lot the artwork in a lot of this too would lend itself to being something oversized down the road. Like I would love to see an absolute. I'd almost like to see an absolute of Snyder's run so far. You know what I mean? Like collected in a couple of volumes, because I just think the artwork's been really spectacular in this. But then there's so many of the other titles that tied into this that I'd love to see in that format blown up too. So I don't know how you would deliver that. I know they've got to be selective in how they do the absolutes, but boy, this would look really good in that format. Especially with so much was done visually with building the sense of horror. And that was also something not exclusive to the Batman book. I felt that all of the titles that tied into this did this great job of developing the creep factor of the Joker. He was doing his gags and all of the things that we know that are familiar with the Joker, but there was a scary intensity to it all, and that kept you going. And the consistency, yes, they were their own artists and they were doing their own little take on it, but they still took a really good look at what was going on in the main title, what this character looked like. And even though they were, it was true to their art style and their sensibilities and all that, they kept the tone, the feel, the for lack of a better word for it, I'll do a sound effect, of what was going on with the Joker. And I loved that. Every single week there were single or more, multiple issues, I should say, because I think every week that we had the tie-ins, we usually had more than one, I believe.
Usually, yeah.
Coming out. So this event really just kept you going. I never felt like it was too much. And I just wanted more. I wanted to know more. I wanted to see more. I was looking for clues. I cared about the clues. I loved the shocks and surprises. When I thought something was going to happen, there was a shock and a surprise there. That was what was great about this whole thing. But you got to commend the art teams, because when you've got this many different art teams in books that are very stylized, because there's a lot of stylized books that we're tying in. It's like, look at Suicide Squad. If you take a look at the artwork of Suicide Squad, compared to a lot of the Bat Family books, it's a very different sort of book with its look and feel and presence, but yet did a terrific job with those Harley issues of, I thought, capturing exactly what we were seeing here in theme. And that is really, I think, a great testament to that title, because I thought that was one, I think there was a lot of varied art styles throughout this, but that was one that I really felt like had a different art style to the whole thing and thematically touched on this.
Well, yeah, and you talk about art styling and just the visual treats of this. I loved how this thing opened up, where Bruce is just coming out of being electrocuted. So everything's dark and just kind of fuzzy, and just slowly he sees the skeleton of the bat, and then, opens up those couple panels there too. Ta-da! Dinner is served. 2-page spread. Absolute horrific look of the Joker, which I absolutely love. Just how just nasty and he looks. The entire family sitting there, hoods over their heads, their own little silver serving dishes. The little kitty cat that I ignored, that we find out later plays a much larger part in this whole story. I didn't even think twice of the cat there, and later on, like, oh my God, and just everything from the look on the face to the background of the cave, just, how this was playing out was just absolutely visually just wonderful.
Now, the funny thing is this theme, and in the beginning, when you talked about that great artwork as far as what he was bringing to Bruce there in that moment, when you saw it, the real bone-and-tooth face, this is why, and later on in the issue, I know I'm jumping a little ahead with this, but I can't help but address it, he doesn't want to acknowledge that there's another identity. It's he, at the core, needs to believe that he understands Batman and that what he went through, how, like, this changing of his face is his real face, and you knew it when you saw it coming, and there was this darkness, and you were waiting for that someone to pull you out into the light, and how he's got to be that yin to the yang. He's got to be that thing that Batman needs, and he can't accept that the family has helped Bruce evolve, that it's actually helped make Bruce better. It's helped make Bruce a more well-rounded person. I think this issue, with the way it ends, and where it goes, I think that's really a testament to how Batman has evolved over time. And I think Snyder has really captured that perfectly. In the end of this, with all the damage that has been done, Bruce is a lot more adjusted than I think we have seen him in the years we've been podcasting and talking about this. We've seen a guy who, am I right on this? Is this a Bruce that is more evolved now and is psychologically in a better place than he's ever been before?
Oh, definitely. This is definitely a more team player. This is more of I don't want to say well-adjusted, because he is still messed in the head,
well-adjusted,
let's be honest. But he is more, he's not the brooding, dark, dreary Bat. He is part of this Bat family. He is Batman Inc. He is seeing that he needs other people in his life, which for me is going to be curious as how everything plays out, because for the first time, the people who were always going, hey, Bruce, you got to open up, are now being kind of standoffish with him. And that's where I want to see, because we see a Bruce who is more accepting and more open for other people to be in his life. And the people who are always there are like, I think I'm going to, give myself a little space here. That's the curiousness.
And that's what I'm saying, though, as far as, and that's why I was careful to say more well-adjusted than we've seen in the past from him. We're seeing a guy who's understanding of that, who's being a dad, who's recognizing, wow, look at the horrors that they went through. I mean, the Joker, when he opens up these trays, I didn't know, there was that part of me saying, are we going to see bits and pieces of Alfred? This is one where he threw me for a loop.
Yeah.
I did not expect that we were going to see their faces.
Oh, God, I love that.
Oh.
I'll tell you, I was like shocked because think about all the different scenarios we threw out as it could be this, it could be that. I was convinced it was Alfred, even though the couple panels before that we saw the Jokerized version of Alfred coming out. So, like, okay, it's not Alfred in there. When they opened up the faces, I was like, oh my God, that's absolutely wonderful. And I immediately went into, okay, we've got Justice League technology, we've got multiple variations on medical super improvements. They can restitch their faces on, but they'll have slight scarring. That's going to be cool.
And then the emotional scarring of all that. But here was the beauty to it, too. I was with you. I was not thinking this was a joke.
No.
I was totally thinking to myself, first of all, I was like, thank God, Alfred. And you got to remember, with the way I read this, when I read it through, I already knew Alfred was okay. I didn't really have registered yet what was happening with them, what they were actually going to see, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So, when I came through the second time, I'd already been relieved with the whole Alfred thing. I'm like, okay, now what's underneath there? And when I saw the face, I'm like, oh my, ugh. The ice. I loved the having the ice there as a visual, and that was the fine details in the artwork throughout all of this has been something that I've greatly appreciated. I know that stuff takes extra time and care. I mentioned on the show many times, though, that I noticed those things. I go back through and read again, and I look for those kind of things that add atmosphere and mood. They're the things that I catch out of the corner of my eye in that read-through, which was technically my read-through, my 1.5, whatever you want to call it, when I did my first read-through. But seeing those fine details, it really made me appreciate the sense of, wow, this is real. Because I was with you. I'm like, okay, the faces are on ice. So, there's going to be a way to have these things reconstructed. But, oh, my God, how is that going to mess with them? And what do they look like underneath those bandages? And this has been a trick of the story all along, the sleight of hand, making us think, like, I've been thinking through the whole thing that Alfred was in real trouble.
Yeah.
Even to the point where they did a preview on Newsarama of Batman and Robin. And the brilliant thing about the preview that they did, they show a sequence where Damian is having a dream.
Yeah.
And Alfred's in the dream. So, because he, wakes up from one dream and then's in another dream. I haven't read the whole issue. You have. I'm sure you'll know the sequence that I'm talking about. And he wakes up from that dream again. Yeah. So that was all I saw. So I didn't know where it goes. So I'm thinking to myself, well, this doesn't prove that Alfred's okay. This proves that Damian's having nightmares involving Alfred.
Yeah.
So I'm like, because my first thought was, well, when I saw Alfred in that page, I'm like, well, they just revealed that Alfred's okay. And then I saw Damian wake up screaming, and I'm like, no!
Yeah.
I wanted to know he was okay. And this was before we had the option to actually read the real issue of Batman 17. So what a great way to do a teaser and a preview on Newsarama when they did it, with just having those few pages up there, because it got me excited for Batman and Robin got me excited for Batman 17, even though they were teasing pages from that book. And the fact that, here's this dumb part, I still got fooled, even though I saw Damian wake up with his face fine.
Yeah.
Although, how do we know? I guess... Here's the funny thing. I didn't read the rest of the issue, so how do I know he didn't wake up from another dream with no face? Great stuff.
Yeah, that was... Yeah, I read the issue. It was really cool. Multiple dreams inside of dreams for both Bruce and Damian. So it was kind of a neat way they did it. It wasn't really a direct aftermath of Death of the Family. It was more of a really cool Damian Bruce story. But it was kind of more from the mindset and visual of Damian. But there's some cool there's some cool father son moments that was a really cool issue.
The one thing talking about artwork that really worked for me, I paid a lot of attention to the eyes. And when I say the eyes of each of the family members. These are people that especially when you got Tim Drake, calm, cool, and collected. I usually think of him as being the logical one and stuff like that. The sheer horror there. Batman's horror. Joker, what have you done? He, Bruce, the guy who's been skeptical of everything the Joker's done, you know him well enough to know that he doesn't know the secret. You've got to trust me on this. I know him, and I bought into that the whole time through. See, this is me having bought into him. When I see him saying, Joker, what have you done? And the fact that he bought into the joke, that sold me immensely, because I've been believing Bruce all along. So it's great that worked on a variety of different levels, no matter where you were falling in this story and how you were riding along on it. I think that layering in this story, this is exactly, anybody who says comics aren't literature, read this and tell me that, like, these aren't writers who are putting just as much drama, no, putting more drama in death than you'll get in novels a lot of times. That's what there is no fluff here in what they did. A psychological masterpiece is what has been crafted here. And I love that.
Oh, God, yeah. And this was swerve on top of swerve. Because we both were sitting here 100% believing their faces were cut off. Yeah, there was no, and I was looking at some of, you talk about the eyes. I was looking at the spots around the eyes, and you can see the red. You can see the blood there. And I immediately am like, oh my God, right there, you can see that his face is cut off. And it's just little traces right around the eyes and parts, but it completely added to the, just the believability of it. It wasn't even just the blood splatter on the bandages. You look around some of the eye sockets on a couple of the scenes, you'll see blood there. You'll see what looks to be raw flesh, which is, who knows what it actually is. It's probably just blood. It's the Joker doing the Joker. So again, you gotta love this guy as just this criminal, psychotic mastermind genius that he could pull so many multiple layers that he could not only swerve all of us who privy to a lot of other outside information, but he got Batman right then and there. Batman 100% thought that he cut off their faces, and every member of the Bat family thought their face was cut off. He was absolutely bravo to him.
One of the things I loved was when the Joker was showing, I did this to show you that beneath them is nothing. It's just that flesh. It's nothing. There's nothing of substance, but beneath you and me, that was his point with that fanged bat, that bony bat. Mm-hmm. This is what's underneath you. They don't have this. They're holding this back. They aren't tied in with this. To a certain extent, there's something, I'm not saying they're holding it back. The Joker got it horribly wrong. They have changed that for Batman. They've helped him evolve and grow. And I know what you were saying as far as how well adjusted can you call somebody who's Batman. I agree with your point on that. But what I'm saying is, for those of us that love this character and follow him, to see his journey and his evolution into the no longer the I'm the Batman kind of guy. And, so standoffish with his family and really wanting to bring them in and be, Team Batman and utilize that in a way. The guy who could do Batman Inc., the guy who could create something like that, the Batman that would go around the world and grab those people and bring Nightwing in on it and allow Nightwing to continue operating as Batman, to trust him with the city. That's not that guy that years ago we were reading that distrusted everybody. Yeah. And that's something that I think has been really great about this is the Joker did get it right to a certain extent, except he didn't see that maybe that's made a better Batman. Like maybe because he's not that paranoid, because he's able to recognize the value of these people and what they bring to the table, that he is now more effective. Gotham is a better place to be in. It's a better suited place. And that these people operating in Gotham and doing their own thing has made the city better, made it safer, and helped Batman to further get closer to what has always seemed like an unreachable and impossible goal. He's actually made headway in certain areas with it. He's allowing the Bruce Wayne side to open up these different foundations, rebuild parts of the city. These things have all happened. We've watched this as fans, and to see it play off here and pay off here has been really, really fantastic. I love that kind of stuff, where I felt like as a fan, having read all these years, like, yes, this has been rebooted. Or, well, the continuity of the DC Universe has been rebooted, and we go to a 5-year format. But this still feels like, to me, this same guy that I've been reading all these years. That's something that's remarkable. in all of this, that I feel that sense of progression with him in this newer universe. And everything that I've read before somehow, because I don't know about you, everything feels relevant to me. Reading this story, I felt that sense of longevity in these moments.
Oh, God, yeah. This is definitely this Joker story is the capstone of all the previous Joker events, and just his, what he's done to Bruce and what he's been involved with Bruce in the past. And I thought that was something that, again, there's always has to be that suspension of disbelief and the timeline crunch and just the question of how much can you fit into 5 years. Well, with a story like this, for me, it really just went out the window. Right here, we've got all these years of experience, all these different adventures that Bruce has had against the Joker. I'm okay with that fitting into this timeline. I'm okay with it being around this because you don't need to be so locked on day one this happened, day two this happened. No, the Joker is his own craziness that happens within a period. Who knows exactly how many days Death of the Family lasted? We know the prep time was over a year because that's how long they said the Joker had disappeared. Okay, the Joker is gone for over a year, but who knows exactly how much this played out? And to be honest, I don't need someone laying this out for me. I don't need that. I've got this wonderful story that everything fits and makes sense in its own crazy Joker way. It makes sense, but it does make sense and it does fit to what happened in the past.
I think that 5-year timeline they've crafted for the New 52, I think it works for a majority of the universe, and I think I'm good with that. I'm glad that it's kind of, you got to suspend your disbelief with Batman. I think you always had to suspend your disbelief with Batman because look how many issues have been published, how many titles have been published. Some of the stuff weaves in and out of continuity, as far as certain events have put back in some stuff that happened pre-crisis and that stuff that wasn't supposed to still happen because of all that. But they brought some of those things back in. Grant Morrison started playing around with things from the Silver Age, with both Superman and Batman, brought that stuff in. The New 52 took some stuff out, and then things are back in. And I don't know. To me, if there's a good writer, a great writer, working on titles, and they have opportunities to bring in something from the past that will add some relevance to a current story, and to show us something new with the character, do it. Go ahead and do it. Who cares about 5 years and 5-year timelines and stuff like that? On the other hand, I'm eating that stuff up in like Justice League and Superman, when they've been rebooting that 5-year timeline really works for me, and actually I'm finding it interesting. Aquaman, I'm finding it working there. So I can ignore it in Batman because I think when you get something like this from Snyder and crew, and when I say crew, everybody associated with this, so I don't mean that to diminish anybody. I feel this event has had so many hands touching it that have made it very special. One thing that has been really consistent with all of the creators involved in this has been that sense of longevity, that sense of a lifetime of dealing with this guy has had impact. Deep emotional impact, left deep emotional scars, that it's like, after everything this maniac has done to us, this happens now? I'm looking at my fate, like how much further can this guy cross? How many further lines? And the debate that rages always with Batman, why haven't you killed him? Joker thinking he knows why, but really the funny part is, and this is where I think there is a genuine evolution of Batman. Batman's outgrown the Joker, in the sense that the Joker is still dependent on feeling that need, that he's that special person of Batman, to the point where he's willing to destroy all of those around Batman to cement that role, to cement that place, to put him back in that horrible place again. But what the Joker hasn't realized is this isn't just some superficial evolution of Batman. At his core, he's grown as a person. He's evolved in a positive way. As positive as you're saying earlier, and I get your point. But here, Batman was able to go past that. He able to believe in his team that when the Joker left a trap for them, that they would be able to fight their own way out. He trusted them to be able to handle it, showing his evolution. Like when Dick Grayson says to him, go get him. We can do this. Listen to me now. Go get him. Knowing that the Joker sprang a trap on them, he knew they would work through it. And he was right. Wow, what a powerful, powerful sequence of events in all this. And I think that shows that Batman is not the same guy that years ago we were reading.
Oh, God, yeah. And I tell you, I'm still questioning whether the Joker was actually in the Batcave or not. Because it's, on one hand, it's with that whole sequence of why haven't you killed me, and where Joker just goes through that great whole pontification, where just going on about, it's because you think I win. No, here's how I win. I win by doing this. I win by keeping doing this. You don't want to kill me because you'll enjoy it, because you won't stop. You'll keep going. And I love just that whole mindset. But then even we get that one bit where he's like, and that's, how did I know you wouldn't tell them about this, as he holds up the card? How did you know that, how did I know that,
Jim, I'm going to totally stop you there. And I'm sorry to do this. Batman showed him what he did. Batman busted him. And he busted him when he got up close to him and did the same thing to him that he did to everyone else. When he said, I know you. I know your real name. Later on in the story, when we see him in the Batcave still with the identity unknown, that was legit. Batman doesn't know who the Joker is. He did to him what he did to Batman. And remember when Batman was holding him up over the edge and he goes, this is where you did it. This is where you dropped off, wasn't it? And here's why you dropped off the boat. He busted him.
Yeah.
He knows that he never made it into the cave. And he showed the Joker that in this issue. He showed him that, hey, I figured you out. This is why I'm the world's greatest detective. I got your game. No matter what game you tried to play here, I outplayed you here. And he got in the Joker's head in that moment by telling him, I know who you are. I know who you were before you became the Joker. I know your real name. And I'm going to tell you right now, freaking the Joker out, because the Joker cannot accept that he was somebody else. He doesn't want Batman to be somebody else. He wants him to be his raging bat and he doesn't understand that Bruce Wayne knows in a way that maybe we didn't see years ago. He knows who Bruce Wayne is. Bruce Wayne in this era now has evolved into being Bruce Wayne. There is the cowl and cape. There is the Playboy persona. But there is a very well-defined Bruce Wayne in the DC universe. Who this guy is in and out of the mask, who he really is at his core. That third person, that one, is so strong now that he was able to overcome the Joker in those moments. And I really felt that in this story. And that was something where there's no way the Joker knows. Because he got him there, and he busted him and slapped him right in the face. The brilliance of this story was, and I'm going to step back and totally agree with something you're saying, he knew it. Batman, we as the readers did not know until Batman told us 100% for sure. Those moments where Batman was telling us and laying it out for us when we did it for the Joker, the smack, it's like, he knew, and he knew it better than we all did. And he's telling us how he knew and why he knew and the clues we missed and how he just knew. And you look back in the story, everything Batman was laying out makes perfect sense. But until he spelled it out for us, none of us knew 100% for sure what the Joker did and didn't know until Batman called him on it and got him. He got him in that moment with his own trick. And that was jaw-dropping. I'm sorry. Go ahead, because I could talk about this story for 3 days.
Okay. But what I was going at with that whole sequence where he's throwing it at the card, and it was because we know, reading the full story, we know that the Joker really didn't know. We have all the answers given, but even after reading that, after getting all the knowledge, there's still something with the way this story was crafted. There still is, that kind of in your mind where as you're reading these words, as you're reading how this laid out, it still pulls you in. And for me, that's the strength of the story writing. The strength of the story that's being told is that I know all this, I know all the truth, I know everything that's played out. Even now, as I'm reading it, I still have those moments that he pulls me into it. and still has those moments where I'm like, does the Joker know? Even though I know everything going on. I think that for me was, you talk about just how beautiful and wonderful this story looks, but just the crafting of the story, these little swerves, these little things, even though that I know how it ends, I know everything, I still get the little surprise. I still get the little shock and awe going. I think that's the true strength of the story, that even knowing everything we know, we still get the surprise moments. We still get the whoa kind of reality hits you when you see it.
Okay, I see. I misunderstood you the first time, so I'm glad I went. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but you were saying it like in a way that you were saying, and I still believe the Joker did. The way you explained it that time around, I get it. I get what you're saying. There's like that part of you that, even though we've gotten the comfort of knowing that the Joker doesn't really know anything, there's that part of you that got so creeped out by this that you're like, but does he? Even though you know, like, Batman's fed it to us, and there's no disputing it, you still got that creep. I'm with you. Okay, I get what you're saying now, and I'm 100% with you on that. I've still got a creep factor, though. Like, I still feel like there's something about Batman's past and that's been violated by this guy, even though it hasn't. Like, Batman really was right all along, but you're right. I get what you're saying now. There's a discomfort to the whole thing. That makes a whole lot that adds, and you're right, it adds a dimension to this that makes it a unique story that, I always reference The Cult as being one of those, we talked about it on the show, as being one of those Batman stories that's kind of like the sleeper one that, like, I think in recent years has gotten a lot more praise for the quality of the story. So much was going on when The Cult came out as far as the great Batman stories that were being delivered, that sometimes it doesn't get the respect that it deserves as being just I think a really terrific Batman psychological thriller. This is one of those, what I liked about The Cult was it felt unique. Like nothing else I'd ever read before about how Batman was broken down psychologically and had to fight his way back past this person that had gotten into his head on such a level. This story has that kind of quality to it where this is unlike any Batman story I've ever read. And that's something I really like because at its core, you really got inside the nightmare of dealing with a guy like the Joker. And it brought to our attention just how smart and how dangerous a smart lunatic can be. I kind of equate him with, and I mentioned it in one of the episodes we did, Charles Manson. One of the creepy things, if you watch a television interview with Charles Manson, you see that the guy's intelligent. And there's something about, like I'm growing up, and as a fan right now, I'm always a big fan of the shining white superhero and the definite villain. And the hero winning and saving the day over the villain, that the villain is somehow something lesser. And as a kid, I think we grew up with cartoons, a lot of times with that being the presence of the villain. The villain wasn't quite on the level of the hero when it came to the smarts, and there was a definite A and B to them. But when you get especially when the villain was crazy, like the crazy ones were always silly. If I'm making sense. Like, the smart ones were always like a Lex Luthor, where you could see that they were a businessman and, they kind of made it in the world. You never saw the crazy ones as being smart. It was more so that they were silly and goofy and cartoony, and they were ultimately foiled by whatever their silly ploy was that they were putting out, like a giant birthday cake or something. That something would backfire. Because Batman was a little smarter and he pulled some gadget out of his utility belt and the cake blew up in the face of the character or something. Just thematically, that's what would happen. Never like this where, like, the Joker used an insane intellect to psychologically go after these people. And he manipulated his allies, the Penguin and Two-Face and the Riddler, to accomplish that as well. This type of brilliant storytelling, it's a psychological thriller. I don't remember a Batman story featuring one of his main villains that did this in this manner. There's been other Batman psychological thrillers. I'm not saying there haven't been. I love that about Batman, that you can get really cerebral and all that. Things like R.I.P., for example, had a psychological thriller element to it. And you can keep going on back through Batman's history and getting that, but not this way. This because of the sheer crazy of Joker, went in a direction that it's left me in awe and speechless with, speechless as I get, but but you know what I mean? It's just kind of, and it's a lot of what you were saying, I guess it's funny, I was dismissing you early, and I apologize for that, because I'm a lot more in line with what you're saying now. I know, like, I'm solidly in the know now with what actually happened here, and yet I'm still creeped out.
And you know who's not in the know? You know who didn't get the chance of that moments where Bruce and the Joker are going at it, where Bruce completely reveals why he knows the Joker wasn't in the cave? All of his people. Yeah. None of them were present for it, so none of them have the knowledge that we have. So they're still, in their mindset, they're still going to have that doubt. It's still going to be inside there, what did Bruce know? What did the Joker know? There's still going to be that hesitation, and there's still going to be that little bit eating away at them. And I think that is probably what Bruce was going to reveal to them in their meeting. That meeting he had planned for everybody. Lay out everything and just to appease them to make sure they understand what was going on. But they all couldn't show up. They couldn't do it. They needed their time away. And I think that again, it's continuation of what's going to happen to the family afterwards. What's going to happen to them? Where's this going to go?
I want to talk about this whole sequence with him and the Joker over there. So how about it, Joker? How about tonight I go farther with you than I've ever gone? How about tonight I stop the game once and for all? He's not talking about killing him. You love it. Deny it all you want. You love me like you love. I did it, Joker. I broke the spell. I did what you wouldn't do. Right here is where you turn back, isn't it? Right at this drop, where the boat dives. Not because you couldn't hold on, but because you wouldn't want to know. But see, me? I'm not like you. Not anymore, Joker. And this year, while you were away, I finally deduced it. Who you were before. You're lying. You're playing my own joke. Your name, your history, your family, all of it. Here, I'll whisper it to you. Whisper it right into your ear, darling. No! Who you are underneath the grin. That moment, wow.
Oh, yeah.
Because in that moment, when he was saying that, and I love the metaphor of the diving boat, saying, you wouldn't dive. I did. I dove into this. I let myself go all the way through. And I accepted that I'm not just this beast of the night. I'm the man, too, and I've accepted a family, and I've been a part of all that. I love that while this is going on, we're seeing Alfred release himself from his bonds and take on a leadership role to be the one to say family, 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 starting to bring everyone out of the Joker's spell.
Yeah.
That moment where we see the family bond together in that moment. So you're right, and you're right, the element that they didn't get to see all of that. Here's the thing. Do you think they needed to see? Or do you think deep down at their core, they know Bruce was right, but they've been through so much psychologically that they're creeped out the way we are? Are they in our place, Jim, where they know the truth? But I guess I'm connecting a lot more with what you were saying earlier, especially when you explained it after I kind of went off on my tangent, and then you kind of reworded how you were doing it. I'm with you. There's a creeped out factor after reading this story. We're just like, whoa. Are they where we're at?
See, I don't know. That's part of I'm still trying to get my hands on how much they know, how much they've understood, and they've accepted. Now, in the end, they're all going to completely accept Bruce, and I don't think there's going to be a problem, but there is a period there's an adjustment period, especially someone like Jason Todd, I think, is gone now. I think this is it. I highly doubt he'll be, as comfortable with them as he was, previously. And even then, he wasn't the most comfortable. I think we're going to see a much more standoffish and distant Jason Todd. Damian is the one who's probably reacting the fastest. Well, Damian and Dick are the two who are going to react the fastest towards Bruce and be back in the fold. Tim's going to take some time, because Tim and Barbara are going to take some time, because they are both really, I don't want to say outsiders, but they're very independent on their own. Now, Dick Grayson obviously is as well, but there is still that connection that he and Bruce have. There's still that, because if you think about it, they each left Bruce notes, but not Dick. Dick actually called him and actually physically talked to him saying, hey, I can't be there. There was, that kind of, and I don't know if it's a maturity or if it's just a longevity he has with Bruce where he was able to do it, but everyone else couldn't face him, couldn't actually hear his voice, couldn't actually talk to him. They had to do texting or leave a note or something. So there's definitely going to be a process for all of them to work their way through it.
Dick didn't get that far in there, though. Bruce understood at that point.
Yeah.
And I like that Bruce cut him off and didn't make him make the excuse.
Yeah.
I thought I think that showed Bruce's maturity and respect. But here's the thing. That sequence where they're all kind of clutching each other, did you notice, I really liked that Barbara and Jason were hand in hand.
Yeah.
Think about their relationship throughout this and the way Barbara views him. And that moment where they're hand in hand there, I think it shows a side of Jason that I can understand why he and Tim Drake bond and get along. And I liked that whole moment visually for me. Jason Todd in the New 50... I think Jason Todd has benefited from the New 52. It's a character I think pre-New 52 was written very inconsistently, depending on who had their hands on him. Because I thought that when they brought him back, and Judd Winnick was doing that with him, was brilliant. And there were lots of moments of brilliance with him throughout that era. But there was also some moments where, there were moments where you were talking about how much you loved the character.
God, yeah.
But tell me, were there crazy moments where it's like, what are you doing with him?
Yeah. Oh, definitely. And he's, as I said, throughout this process, he's, I think, going to be the one who's going to be the most deeply affected by this. Because we got a really good glimpse as to who Jason is and why, the mindset and where he's at mentally, where he's been, his past, and everything that's played out for him. That he's gonna have massive trust issues, and that's what I want to see, because he's really started opening up. Well, not opening up, but starting to trust. Corey and Roy, and I want to see what happens after this. Because the one person that, even though he would never really truly admit, the one person he always trusted was Bruce Wayne. He's like, Batman, he always trusted Bat. Even throughout all his negative side of it, we've seen enough stories where in his mind he still has that faith. He still had that faith in him. Well, that faith just got crushed in this story. And that's what I want to see is, can this come back? What's going to happen? How is it going to play out? Everybody else is going to be okay eventually. He's the wild card, and he's the what's going to happen here.
But here's, I guess, the question, the whole thing. I guess I'm seeing this two possible ways. I agree with what you're saying, but there's another part of me that's wondering what if they deep down know that Bruce was right, but after what they've all been through, their association with Bruce, and all of that is what's preying on them. Sitting there saying, what happened if they had maybe trusted Bruce all along and listened to him? Because remember, they didn't, and a lot of times that got them in trouble. He was telling them to stay away, and they didn't always follow that.
Yeah. Well, Damian definitely got caught because he didn't follow Bruce's orders 100%. Bruce said stay in the cave, and Damian said, no, I'm going to go look for Alfred. And that's how Damian got caught. So definitely Damian right there, you can directly see. Now, with some of the others,
Joker sought them out.
Yeah. Joker kind of sought them out, pulled them in, did whatever he was going to do, and manipulated the circumstance to get his hands on them.
But I got to throw a but in there. But in some of those cases as well, if they listened to Bruce when Bruce said the Joker doesn't know, some of them were played specifically because they let themselves be thrown off their game because they believed the Joker knew when he didn't know.
Yeah.
Like Dick Grayson in particular. Look at how frantic and panicked he was that the Joker knew. And that, those great issues by Kyle Higgins of Nightwing showing how, so what if we had Dick Grayson who knew that the Joker and wasn't being thrown off by the Joker doing what he did? What if Dick Grayson believed Bruce and knew, 100% believed Bruce and knew that the Joker didn't know and was able to look at that situation objectively? Would things have gone down the way they did there? Because I truly believe that the Dick Grayson that took over as Batman was a great Batman. And I believe that Dick Grayson could go toe-to-toe with the Joker. And I think he was thrown off his game because he didn't trust Bruce 100%. He believed that Bruce keeping that secret compromised them.
Yeah.
Whereas I'm convinced now at the end of this story, Bruce did the right thing. Imagine if they'd known years ago that there was a possibility that Bruce found this card and that card was enough to put a doubt in their head that the Joker might know about them. Look at how it threw them off their game when they knew about it now. Imagine early in their careers, when they were younger, that they knew that this was a possibility. What if he'd come clean with that? See, I think Bruce did the right thing. I think telling them at the younger stage would have been even worse. Look how they reacted now when they're veterans, seasoned veterans, and they know him better than they did back then. Like, I am convinced, I honestly got crying a little bit of foul on them on this one for not believing him. This is not the same Bruce. And I think they should have believed him on this one. He was right. So it's funny how I'm a little critical of them, and I think to a certain extent, I'm not saying they brought it on themselves, but if they trusted him a little bit more, like he's calling them over after this whole thing's done to talk, which that shows maturity. Whereas before, it would have been them calling him to talk. He's calling them over to talk because he's saying, hey, let's talk this thing out. This is the chance to let me know what you think. He can fill them in on what was going on with the Joker, that type of thing. But Dick Grayson, I guess you'd have to go on an individual basis with each of the ones and cry. Like some of them you can cry foul, and other ones you can kind of like. Barbara, I can almost give her a little bit more of a pass.
Yeah.
But Dick Grayson should have known Bruce was right.
Yeah, and I agree with you. There's definitely. This is one of those stories where when I stop and think about it, my opinion on the different parties and what they should have done and shouldn't have done will change as things flow through. Because throughout most of this, I was thinking Bruce should have told them, Bruce should have kept them in the loop. But when you start looking and start thinking about exactly how would they react had they known. For example, Jason Todd, when he first became Robin, if he had known that there was a possibility that the Joker could know know Bruce's identity, could know his identity, that would have definitely really thrown off his game. Would have really messed with his head, especially when the Joker then started playing around with things. Now, granted, when he messed with the Joker, it didn't end for him too well, so it's kind of a hard point to say he would have gotten killed. Wait, he did get killed, but there is the points leading up to that. If Jason Todd was always looking over his shoulder, if he was looking for the Joker coming after him, he would have been a completely different Robin. Same thing with Tim Drake, because Tim, with his family, with his parents are alive in this universe. If he thought they were in jeopardy by being with Batman, that really would have messed with him. He would have gone on the offensive and tried to, who knows what he would have gone after, and that could have really messed things up.
I liked the dialogue with Alfred that Bruce has, where he's opening up to Alfred, filling him in on that. This is where if Alfred had died or, something horrible had happened to him and we lost these moments, oh, what a tragedy that would have been. And I was genuinely scared for that. Like, I'm comforted that Alfred's okay now, but it's funny how I'm, more protective of him now than I was earlier in the story. When I see him sitting there in a bed, let's keep him there. Like, can we get nurses in there and guards and stuff like that?
Now when Alfred rings the bell, who's going to come running to bring him the food and whatnot? Is it going to be Bruce, or do they have other, maids and whatnot?
Bruce. Yeah. That was the point of that, though.
Oh, okay.
No, the point of that was for Bruce to say, I'm going to come to you. And Alfred's denial in that moment was, that's my job, not yours. I'm not going to call you that way. That's never been your role. And I loved Alfred protesting in that moment because he doesn't want... It'd be like Bruce laying in the bed while Alfred runs out and is Batman. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, Bruce would never let that wash. He'd never let that stand. He'd get up and, get in the gear. And if there was some reason that he couldn't, and Alfred was, doing that little teasing bit with him, he'd say the same thing right back to him that Alfred says to him. And that's what I loved about that moment. There's a familiarity with those two that, I think it's one of the reasons why I'm being a little hard on Dick Grayson, who I love to death. And I want to qualify on this. I think the writing of Dick Grayson and Dick Grayson's reaction is real world and brilliant. I think It's the same argument that I'd have of two real people that, like, well, let's go use you and I as an example. Let's say you and I were in a situation where I found something that I knew if I showed you would set you on a paranoid trail that, like, you wouldn't be able to ever let go. You know, I'll use an example here, and this is not me making a joke. This is me being serious. What if I knew a road that you drive to work every day was a big, long bridge, okay? And I knew this. I knew it was the safest road in the world. I knew there was nothing that could ever happen to you or anything like that, but I know you drive it to work every single day. And if I tell you this, you're going to, and I swear to you, I'm not like saying this to put you down anyway. I'm just trying to, I knew if I did this, you would lose your job because you wouldn't be able to drive to work or something like that. And we could throw something equally back at me where you would do the same thing because I know the kind of guy you are. I would never put you in a position where I would tell you something, like we're revealing something to you, would cause you harm. Do you get what I'm saying?
Oh, God,
like
yeah,
it would ruin your life and something like that. I know that by not revealing this to you, I'm not hurting you. I'm protecting you from something that would hurt you, because you're psychologically going to go to a place, and you would do the same for me. You want to be the good friend. You want to be the person that opens up. Keep in mind too, we're talking about a guy that's you and me. You and I are the kind of guys that are honest with each other. You know what I mean? We don't have trouble being honest and open with each other. My respect level for you, as far as telling you anything, is through the roof. We joke around with each other on the podcast and nitpick and poke and stuff at each other. But the honest truth is, on this planet, you're on a short list of people that, like, I genuinely feel I could tell anything and trust you with anything. So for me not to tell you something, it would have to be where I'm like, if I tell Jim this, it's going to, like, really harm him, in some way. And my example probably it's a very silly example, but I was trying to think of something where, like, why would I try to protect you? You know what I'm saying? Trying to give a real world example. So it's a very poor example, but the idea is there. I know if the roles were reversed, you would, I'd keep it secret. I wouldn't, do anything that would. But if there was something that if you told me it, you knew it would harm me in some way, you wouldn't tell me, because you would sit there and go to yourself, I'm going to wreck this person's life to tell them this. So you'd hold on to that secret for yourself, which Bruce did for all these years with his card. Telling any of them something that he knows for sure, like, I can't prove this. There is no physical evidence that can prove to me that this guy can't be here. I mean, I can lay out for you the whole thing about the boat and all that stuff, but I cannot provide with you step-by-step concrete evidence. This is just something with how well I know this guy, with everything that I'm laying out. Because remember, you laid out a certain thing about the kind of crazy that he is and how people do these crazy, enormous stunts, and there was stuff that Nightwing was laying out, I believe. Yeah. If I'm remembering right in the issues. But you were going along with it. I remember when you and I had a debate over this, you were kind of extending that, and I saw your point. Your point was very genuine and legit. So you could see a debate like that starting. Even like you're saying here, the great example is your example about how in this story, even though we know now, there's still that creep factor of, there's that part of you that's not comfortable with it, even though you know.
Yeah, exactly.
That's how they would be if he had told them back then, and it would be worse because of how young and inexperienced they were at the time, which is crazy about this story, because there's a reality to this whole thing that gets... This story goes so far beyond the story that's told here, and a lot of it's funny. I was dismissing what you were saying earlier because I didn't quite get what you were going for, but now that I'm wrapping my head around where you were going with your comments earlier... That's the brilliance of this story. That's where it extends beyond the event. It justifies Bruce's not telling them because of what it would have done to them. Look what it's doing to them now with how mature they are.
Oh, God, yeah. And that's the neat thing about the multiple read-throughs on this story, where you can start looking at this stuff on different layers. When I go back and do my read-through of the entire death of the family from start to finish, I'm going to see different stuff. I'm going to I'm going to read it differently. And even though, knowing the full outcome, look for the different clues that were laid out, look for the different parts, and the figuring it out. as it goes along. Granted, it's cheating because I already know the ending, but it's a cool way to read through, knowing the ending, seeing if you can pull out the different clues they laid out, and you have those aha moments where you're like, oh, I can't believe I missed, I could have got that, oh, I don't believe that. And it just, that's part of my enjoyment. And this is a story that, even after our discussion, I'm going to read it differently, just because there are so many different layers and levels of story and just the mystery and the wonderment that was this great detective story. This was high action. This was adventure. This was some really cool visual, gory, graphic type of artwork. But this in itself was just a absolute brilliant detective story. And that's something that really, it's like, you got to have those with Batman. You got to have those mysteries. You got to have those swerves.
It's funny, when that sequence when he goes to Arkham and he shows the card to the Joker, it reminds me of the C.S. Lewis Chronicles of Narnia had the last book, which was technically the prequel, The Magician's Nephew. There's a character, Uncle Andrew. And Aslan, for anybody who knows the Chronicle of Narnia stories, when Aslan birthed Narnia, the animals, 2 by 2, he made animals able to talk and speak and think and do all these things. But Uncle Andrew, he was like he's the one who actually allowed the kids to kind of cross over into Narnia by finding, and playing with magics that he didn't quite understand. He so would not let himself psychologically hear the animals that he convinced himself, and the premise of the story was, if you tell yourself you're stupid long enough, you'll be stupid. He made himself believe that they were just, laughing and talking was, baying and neighing and growling and, all that kind of stuff that animals would normally do. He convinced himself that was going on when the animals were actually speaking quite fluently. The Joker in that sequence, I really connected with that, where, Bruce was saying, no, Bruce could have come out in that moment and said, I'm Batman, and the Joker wouldn't have let himself see it. And I think that was the point in that moment. The Joker wasn't going to let himself go there. It was never about that for him. It was, I think it's this idea that he worshipped the beast side of the Batman. It's kind of what Christian Bale talked about when he puts on the cowl. How that just, that voice that he does kind of comes out of him that way. It was funny how, I always laughed at the over-the-top voice that everyone, kind of criticized about with him and Batman, until I saw the interview with him as to how he feels when he's got the costume on. Did you ever see that one?
Yeah. Oh, God, yeah.
Did that, for you, change, your feelings about his, I'm Batman, that voice that he does, swear to me, or whatever, he says? Yeah. Did that change your viewpoint of that, the way it did me?
I always liked the voice.
Did you?
I cracked jokes about it, and I did the Bat voice, but I always actually enjoyed it, and it was just something about it, that I liked the fact he had to have this different disguise to his voice. There was times when he had the longer dialogue, I wish we could have gotten a little bit relaxed and a little bit tweaks into it. But seeing that interview kind of made me just appreciate his acting more towards it, because he really went into. There was a psychology going through his head as he's putting it on. It wasn't just putting on, you kind of associate it with putting on armor, putting on, battle, but it's putting on this persona. It's becoming this beast. It's becoming this force, of nature that, was beyond man. He wasn't just a person in a costume. He was the Batman. And it's, kind of a growth of who the story is. So I did appreciate the actor more for where he was going and his motivation behind it. But I never really had a major issue with the voice.
Yeah, I never had a major issue with the voice. I guess I started to see the point a little bit when people were critiquing it and criticizing it. Like, well, it is kind of over the top. Until I saw his interview about it. And then I'm like, I was totally won over again. I'm like, oh, God, he's brilliant. For a lot of the reasons, I think you just caught it right from the get-go from your comments in a way that I think I was being a little bit jaded by, the criticisms that people were throwing in. This sequence where he's back with Alfred, he's talking about, so I knew there was no chance he got into the cave. I knew it because I know him. know him better than I like to admit, but there was no way to say that to them, the family, to explain it. But what he said down there, Alfred, about why I refused to kill him, and in that moment, like he's justifying why he never told the family. He's right. We see it here. He was in this trap. There's no way to explain that to them. That moment that he had with the Joker, if anybody who even seeing it and reading it as readers, you question it. You know what I mean? Like, how does the Joker not know when you've shown him that? But yet, he's right.
Yeah.
You know, the Joker's convinced him. You know, the Joker will not let himself see that, and people do that. You know, it's kind of the old forcing yourself to not see things that are in front of you because the Joker needs the illusion that he's crafted. He's so twisted into that world. And it's funny how I think a guy like Batman, and this actually goes back to something you were saying earlier about whether he can be well-adjusted or not. I think this adds some validity to that. I think Bruce, at various times in his life, has his own kind of crazy. So I think that's why he understands the Joker. It's the yin, the yang thing. You know, seeing him now vocalize this to Alfred, something he's never been able to tell. He's never told Alfred this story before.
Right.
We're finding this out with Alfred the same way. Opening up with Alfred like this, I guess that's why I'm saying this is an evolution of him. I love this epilogue stuff is every bit as engaging to me as the main story when it was going on.
Oh, God, yeah.
I love these moments. To me are essential. These were essential uses of the pages. I loved having these sequences in here. To me, that just really, really connects. I love the way the Joker went over the cliff. You don't see him.
Yeah.
I'm always a fan of that kind of ending where it's, you know, he's going to come back again someday. The face kind of drifting off on its own. You know, what's the Joker going to look like when he comes back? Will he have that face? Will he have, you know, I don't know what he's going to look like. I don't really care. This just so played out so well in those moments that, I don't know, do you think when Bruce was going to have them come over, that he was going to try to lay this out the way he just did for Alfred? Almost his rehearsal for how he was going to talk to them?
Yeah, I think so. And you know what? I just realized something.
Mm-hmm.
Dick Grayson, he's calling from outside Wayne Manor.
Oh, wow. You're right.
He's literally outside. And I wonder, you know, because he did, you know, Bruce did cut him off before because, like, Bruce, I'm calling to just calling to, it's all right, I understand. But Dick is right outside Wayne Manor. Was Dick actually going to show up? Or was he not going to be able to, or was he going to give him an excuse? I think
Dick got that far. First of all, great catch. I did not catch that.
I just caught it now.
Yeah, so thank you for pointing that out. I guess I was here. It's a great example of where, and again, another testament for, you know, doing multiple rereads. My focus in all those sequences was always on Dick. So when I'm watching Dick Grayson talking to, you know, Bruce in that moment, I never was focusing on the fence. I never when it was up close and when it was in a distance. I don't know. You know, I guess what do you think? And I guess this is a testament for Bruce and Dick Grayson's relationship. I was being a little hard on Dick Grayson earlier because I love Dick Grayson to death. I love the character. It's funny, for me, I always wanted Bruce back as Batman, but then there came a point where I was becoming a believer and I wanted him to stay the second Batman. Like, when they did that, they got me that into the whole thing that, like, I wanted that to happen. You know, I wanted to see him continue to be Batman in Gotham. I loved that. I thought it was great. In that moment, if Bruce had said to him, Dick, please, I really need to talk to you. This is really important to me. What do you think Dick Grayson would have done? Even if Dick gave an excuse. Because I think he was giving an excuse there. I really do. I think he got as far to the gate, which is a testament to Dick Grayson, with everything they went through. And I think at the gate he said, I just can't right now. I'm not ready yet. What if Bruce said to him, please, I really need you? What would Dick Grayson do?
What he would do, he'd say, I'm at the front gate, open it up, I'll see you in 5 minutes.
I agree. And I think out of the whole crew, I think he would be the one to do it.
Yeah.
So it's an interesting, it's funny how you can take it to that level, like who would be the first. I do think the others would have too.
Yeah.
But I think Dick Grayson's the one you could have counted. Like, I would, if it was out of all of them, if I was going to go to one of them, it would be Dick Grayson.
Yeah, and that's why Dick got so close to there before he said, I can't do it. Damien went to the bunker downtown. Tim just, he's in his room, just chilling, and Barbara's sipping some tea in front of the fire, and Jason doesn't even call. He's just at a bar drinking, But Dick is the one who actually made it to the manor. He made it there, and he's like, I just can't. Yeah. So, yeah, it does show a level of, and I don't know if it's because Dick's been there the longest, or if it's just his personality, or what it is about, if it's their connection or where it comes from. But, yeah, it's... He's the first one who comes around. He's the first one who has no issues with Bruce.
Identity unknown when he goes down the Batcave on the screen. I know I mentioned this earlier, but that was a key critical thing for me because I loved that the writer reminded us, and the artist, that Batman pulled the trick on him and he didn't really know.
Yeah.
Not only did we know that the Joker didn't really know with the blank notebook and just various little clues that Batman pointed out to us, and Batman really slammed it home that he didn't know, but the writer also is letting us know that when Batman said he knew, no matter how crazy the Joker got with that joy buzzer to the mouth, Bruce didn't really know. Bruce played the Joker enough that he made the Joker for a second question enough that he knocked himself over the cliff to avoid it. The Joker believed in that moment. Bruce was that convincing. I loved that. I loved that little reveal was just kind of like, oh, he did it.
Yeah.
But then the twist at the end, what was that radioactive isotope that was in all of them? Ha! Oh, great.
That was awesome. Again, it's just the little unknown radioactive isotope. He throws it in there just because it's, the symbol is Ha. You gotta love the Joker for that stuff, man.
I like the close-up on the bug at the end.
Yeah. Well, the fly and the rotted fly has been throughout everything, so it's kind of like the fly is still in the cave, so the Joker is still kind of there. I wonder when they're going to bring him back and how they're going to bring him back, because the Joker's not dead. He's going to make a return, and when does that happen? How does it happen? I hope it's a story of this monumental proportions, that it's when they bring him back, they bring it back big.
Did you see on your digital copy that Tony Daniel cover?
Oh God,
the one
yeah.
with the face, with the where it's Batman's cowl cut off, like the way the Joker's face was.
Oh God, I love that. I wish I'd ordered it. I wish they'd show some of these variant covers when it's time for ordering, because I probably would buy more.
Yeah, that's a variant cover I really want. It's funny, Tony Daniel really can do some amazing artwork. And that's one of those, there's a piece that just in particular stands out for me going, wow.
Yeah.
And I like the different variations on the original cover, too. And then that one with the close-up, with that themed Bruce Wayne face.
Well, it's when they first had the Death of the Family stuff where they had the overlay.
Yeah, yeah.
This is the Bruce one where it's not with the cowl, it's just Bruce. So I thought that was kind of neat that they went to that.
Yeah, just, I don't know, just a really amazing stuff. I don't know, this was an event that, like, the resonance as a reader, like, if they didn't, it's funny how if this was a novel and it ended here, I would feel just so satisfied because it left me with a lot to think about. One of the great things about this being a serialized medium is that we're going to have issue after issue after issue that's going to reference this and deal with this. And there's going to be a huge resonance from this. And the funny part is, the Joker succeeded to a certain extent in his goal of trying to put a rift between the family.
Yeah.
And, the end, you got to wonder, is the joke on Batman with what he did? I don't know. I'm going to be very curious to see how various members, like, I want to see how Jason Todd is changed by this. It's funny, out of all of them, I never expected this. I'm the most interested in seeing how he's changed because I think he is so much more divorced from Bruce than the rest. You can't help but wonder if this is somehow going to make him appreciate Bruce in a different way. I know that that's a weird thing to say, but where else is there to, what is he going to hate Bruce more?
See, I think I always thought that with him, in the back of his mind, he never hated Bruce. It was always he still wanted to be a part of the family. He still wanted to be one of them. He still wanted Bruce's acceptance. I think this is something that's going to make him not want Bruce's acceptance. Right here, Bruce Wayne is the guy who, in his mind, whether it's subconscious or conscious or whatnot, who could, do no wrong. He was still that great guy who was right, who was, this is the guy I could always trust to do the right thing. Well, now he's been exposed to, Bruce doesn't always do the right thing. Because in Jason's mind, Bruce should have told them about the Joker. And again, Jason doesn't have the advantage of what we know, the truth we know. So going forward, I think this is going to hurt his relationship with Bruce and probably the family.
I guess, I don't know. I guess we kind of see Jason. That might be where we veer off in how we see Jason. Because I've always seen Jason as, and a lot of the storytelling, it's been presented that Jason was mad that Bruce didn't kill the Joker. That, the Joker did this horrible atrocity to him, and Bruce never made him pay for it. He just let him go.
Yeah, and I agree with you. There is that. So there was always that hatred and anger that Jason has about that Bruce didn't, because it was Jason. It was a Robin. That it wasn't just some citizen. Right. Bruce should have done it. But you look at some of the stories that came out of Red Hood. Not out of the outlaw, the New 52, where they kind of do a little delve into Jason's mind. There is still that kid who still wants the appreciation of Bruce, who still wants to be part of that family, whose fond memories that he has are still of those quiet moments where he and Bruce, instead of going out on patrol, hung out and did popcorn night. And there's just those type of moments that we've seen that side of Jason.
And I agree with you on that, but weren't those shattered, and isn't his resentment that those were shattered when Bruce didn't do something about the fact that he died?
Well, I think he still had those moments even after, because those were the memories, those positive memories that he held on to. Mm-hmm. Those were those moments. So if you're holding on to those positive memories, they weren't completely shattered. Now, I think they're shattered.
See, I always thought he looked at those as saying, though, that, this was this illusion world that I was living in. The reality was something far different. I don't know. I think I think Jason Todd has become, for me, one of the most improved New 52 characters. I'm not saying he's the only one, but one of the cool things about Jason Todd is you've taken a character who I think he was very mixed pre the New 52 since he came back to life, that in the New 52, there's really tightened up who this character is and what he's all about. I think they went to the core of what were always my favorite stories before the New 52 and really developed that with him. I'm fascinated by where this is going to go with him. Not that I'm not... Wait, let me clarify. I'm fascinated where it's going to go with the whole lot of them.
Yes.
But it's Jason, for some reason, I think it's surprising me how much I'm focused on him, specifically in how this will affect his relationship with Bruce. I'm just insanely curious. And if you're right in how your thinking is, that's great. I'm on board for that. I'm interested, though, and I'm trying to see, different possibilities to it. I think it's going to be I would love it to be an interesting little ride down the road. To see them interact again at some point after this. I don't know. I just... wow, what a character that's become, I just think, so interesting. Great job creatively with that guy.
Oh, yeah.
Did you see who's taking over Batwing?
No, I did not.
Graham Palmiotti.
Ooh.
Yeah. Fabian DiCiesa was doing some of the fill-in work, but the new creative team, the new writing team is going to be Graham Palmiotti on that book.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm very excited for that. It's funny, we got Gail Simone popping up on her new book with a friend of the show, Freddie Williams II. That's going to be that new... I'm forgetting the name of it at the moment. I was very geeked out and excited because they've got those two politically charged books that are coming out. Because we've seen a lot of cancellations listed. And it's funny, I don't know why in the New 52, this is going to seem like a strange thing to say. I'm not getting upset over the cancellations, only because I think they laid out this interesting premise from the start of the New 52. That they were going to give titles a certain number of issues, and that they've been pretty aggressive on letting creative know that, like, this is what we're guaranteeing you, so they can wrap up make sure an arc wraps up, so we as the readers get that. And I've been feeling that in the books. A lot of New 52 books as they've gone along that have been canceled are books that I've really dug. I've really enjoyed. So let me clarify that. But I've really liked that at least when they wrap up, I felt like they've usually wrapped up on an arc. I felt like there was an ending to the story, a possibility of them popping up elsewhere and still existing in the universe. I felt like I got a good miniseries out of them, if that makes sense. And I mean that totally as a compliment. I'm a fan of miniseries. I'm a fan of, great story arcs and, good trades and stuff like that. So I felt like most of these titles, like OMAC is a great example of one. Did I think I was going to go gaga over OMAC? No. I loved that book. I think that was really just a great, crafty, terrific little wacky title that I'm really glad I read. It had a certain run to it, and it didn't make it beyond that. But I'm glad they put it out. So, some of the titles that are canceling, Sword of Sorcery, did you see they're canceling that one?
Yeah, I saw that.
I'm not happy about that at all because I really dig the book. But here's the thing. I'm glad they published it and gave it a shot because I've been really digging the book.
Yes. So,
it's at least I've had the opportunity to be exposed to that and really be interested in those characters. I want to see her pop up again in Justice League Dark. I'm hoping that happens because I'm Amethyst. I'm interested in as a character. This series has really gotten me excited about her. I want to see her elsewhere. I want to see that character continue on.
Yeah, but she's a cool character.
Earth 2 is one of those second wave books or new wave books that came down the road. I wouldn't trade Earth 2 and World's Finest for anything in a million years. So if they didn't have this policy of like trying some things out for a certain number of issues, if they don't stick, we'll fill them in with new titles and new concepts and new ideas. These two politically charged ones, Art Balthazar and Franco are going to be on the one, and Gail Simone and Freddie Williams on the other. Like, I'm so geeking out excited for those. I think those are going to be two titles that are going to be like Earth 2 World's Finest cool to me. That's something like down the pipe. That's May, I think, that those are coming out, if I remember correctly. I'm really excited for those.
Yeah, we have The Movement, written by Gail with art by Freddie. That comes out May 1st. And then we have The Green Team, written by Art and Franco with art by I.G. Guerra, Guara, which comes out May 22nd.
The thing about the 1% or something like that, wasn't that like what it looks like on that?
Yeah, well, the one side's the 1%er, the other side's the 99. So they're actually hitting both sides of the argument, which I'm kind of curious to see. That was something I was glad about because with me and political stuff, I kind of keep that to myself. I'm not very publicly about my political views, even though you listen close enough, you can probably figure out where I stand on certain events. But I was kind of glad to see they're going to touch on both ends of it. And it's not just a political, yeah, man, down with the money, or yay with the rich people. It's not, they're giving you both sides of the argument. And they're actually going to expose it inside the DC universe. This isn't just a it's obviously going to be a commentary about the present day society, but it's not just that. It is a story within the DC universe. It is about greed and corruption on the one side, but then it's about do you need the money to finance the project? There is some value behind. There is some advantage to having these money people. If you didn't have guys like Bill Gates, if you didn't have guys like, as much as whether you like him or not, Donald Trump, or think about the people like that are in the Shark Tank, Mark Cuban and Mr. Wonderful. These are people who are throwing out money to make people's dreams and just and fix up their starting businesses or failing businesses. So you do need both sides of this. You need these underground people, but you need these money and powerful people. You got to have the yin and the yang, and I'm glad we're seeing both of these, and these are both wonderfully creative teams that I'm very curious and very excited to read what they have to say about it.
Well, it's funny with Art and Franco, when they were canceling Superman Family Adventures, I was sad because I'm like, where are they going to go?
Yeah.
Because since Tiny Titans, I've been very used to them having a title, or more than one, the Green Lantern animated one, more than one title going at a time. They had the Shazam book, too, when that was out. So I'm like, where am I going to get my fix of these guys? And I'm really, really glad that this is coming about because I want to see, how they're going to tackle this. It's going to be a different sort of title for them. I'm really into it. Did you see they have a Kickstarter?
No.
I'll put a link to it in the show notes. They're doing their own all-ages comic line.
Oh, cool.
As a Kickstarter. Yeah, it's really cool. And, like, the Kickstarter, there's an option now. They bumped it up. First, it was initially you could pay for the first 6 issues. Now, the first half a year. Now, because it did so well, like, they got their funding in a day. So now that they're past those stretch goals, you can get, like, the first 12 issues.
And it's funny, I think we had this conversation before, but I don't know if we were just talking or if we were actually doing it one of our shows. Because as you're mentioning this, I'm like, yeah, now I remember hearing all this.
Yes, I don't know if I mentioned it to you. If I didn't mention it on the show, it's really, really cool. The one I want to mention, and for anybody listening to this, the Family Troll is another one. Feel free to follow me on Kickstarter for anybody that does that, but I'll put links to both of these in the show notes. The Family Troll, it's Tyler Kirkham and his wife, the artist that's from the Green Lantern books.
Yeah. And
I'm a big fan of his art, but he and his wife have been trying to have a kid. There's challenges to that, and everyone, their families probably had somebody that's experienced challenges. That my own mother couldn't have kids and tried and, had issues with that, and that's how I was adopted, which, wound up being a really great thing for me. But this story of the Family Troll is kind of their way as a couple of kind of coming together and emotionally dealing with the challenges of that. The premise is it's these, this couple in this magical world, and they adopt this family troll. This troll, I should say, not the family troll, is a troll. The troll is a child, and you can imagine in a story where you've got a couple adopting a troll, the troll isn't going to stay a baby, small baby. It's going to grow up to be a full-grown troll. And, having to face the challenge of that, it looks like this really heartwarming, endearing, Pixar-like story that, just has me really excited. It's a storybook. They're making their own storybook. Kirkham's been doing the artwork for it. His wife wrote it. He's been doing the artwork for it in between doing issues for DC. So, keeping himself on schedule, but doing this as a side project, it's a labor of love. Gorgeous looking artwork on this thing. So I'm going to put links to both of those, for anybody who's fans of Superman Family Adventures, Tiny Titans, stuff like that. You're going to want to check this out. Great all ages material from Art and Franco. And it's already got its funding. So that one you want to jump on. The Family Troll hasn't gotten its funding yet as of when I'm recording this. And I've mentioned this one on the show before. I just want to mention it again because a lot of the Kickstarters that I have been a part of have already gotten their funding and they're going for stretch goals like the Art and Franco one. And please feel free to follow mine and take a look at our Facebook page. I've been posting links to these things. When I don't have the money to, support every Kickstarter out there. I tend to grab ones that I see that look like they interest me. Sometimes I miss really good ones because I've seen ones that have already been funded or, past their funding date that I've missed being a part of. But when I catch ones that have a emotional resonance to me, I try to tweet them and post them on our Facebook pages and stuff like that. The Raging Bullets one in our Raging Bullets group, Facebook group, just for the purpose of I have no financial connection to them. Other than the fact that I'm a fan who found this kind of cool. And I'm hoping that, I figure people listening to this might have some interest similar to what I do. So figuring one of these projects might interest somebody listening if they're, a fan of Tiny Titans and stuff like that, they might want to jump to it. So I really kind of do it more as a, hey, this looked cool to me, maybe it'd be cool to you. So I just wanted to shout those out again. The Family Troll one in particular, if it sounds remotely interesting to you, please go check it out. There's a great video that Tyler Kirkham and his wife put out explaining the project, so you can see if it's your cup of tea. I'm not financially associated with it in any way, shape, or form. It's more of I'm an interested fan who would love to see it come to fruition because I want to read it. So I'm throwing it out there for that purpose. So all I would ask is if it sounded kind of cool to you, go check it out. If it isn't your cup of tea, but you know someone whose it is, I would just ask, please fish it onto them and say, hey, this isn't my thing, but I thought it was yours. You might want to help fund this because, there's something cool about it. So I don't know. consider doing that with these Kickstarters, because I'm a big fan of the whole Kickstarter process, and I just wanted to shout both of those cool projects out. Jim, anything else you want to say about Batman? I know I got kind of derailed on with my public service message at the end there, but they're very relevant to what we're talking about. Anything else you want to say about Batman? I'm not going to mention, there's been some news about Jeff Johns and Green Lantern and stuff. I'm going to be kind of mum. Did you see that?
Yes, I saw that.
Yeah, we're going to save that for our conversation next week with Myron,
right?
Because it seems the way to go into that. We got this big in-depth Green Lantern extravaganza that's coming next week, so we'll kind of save those comments for that. We also have coming up for our listeners. We recorded a real cool segment with your niece, Cassie, and I haven't had a chance to edit it. And I like to, whenever we have guests on, the same thing I'll do with Myron, really sit down and spend some time editing it and put out something special for those people because they're kind enough to give us their time. So I am going to do that. This has just been a crazy week for me. So I hope everyone enjoyed this kind of impromptu cast. Anything else you have about Batman?
I think that's about it. I think we've pretty much covered it.
Yeah.
Nice, light, small. Yeah. When Sean and I, just so y'all know, when Sean and I were going to record this, Sean's like, well, we'll just do the one issue. I'm thinking it should be maybe 30, maybe 45 minutes tops.
Wait, in fairness, in Raging Bullets time, it was. It's what is it? Isn't it? We do things in twos.
Yeah, 2s, 3s.
I'm going to need something to wear in a very big truck.
Sure. Anything else?
I'll need some guys. Not these guys, because, well, they're kind of dead.
Jim, I want to remind everyone about our show voicemail line, and that will definitely be coming back next episode. This week, I've had an absolute crazy week. Between I had to go to a conference for my job. I had parent-teacher conferences. We've got Valentine's Day coming up. So it was, I thank you, actually. I should thank you for your flexibility, because we don't normally record late like this, and you were a real trooper and professional in saying, well, you know what, let's just do this. So I really appreciate your flexibility doing this, because we wanted to get a show out for our listening audience this week. And I want to thank Myron Rumsey as well. Myron's our friend from the amazing blog of OA, great podcaster in his own right. He's coming on next week. As we had promised, we're going to be doing a Green Lantern extravaganza. When we do those with Myron, they end up being big, huge, and meaty. And I didn't want to sell that short, because there's so much cool stuff going on in the Green Lantern books, plus the Jeff Johns news for us to talk about, that I didn't want to cut that episode short on any level. So we are going to be doing a big Green Lantern Universe extravaganza next week. That is still on the slate. We haven't dropped that. So I want to thank Myron for his flexibility. He's been a good friend and a real trooper. And with our crazy schedules this week, we just decided that we were better served making sure that we had the flexibility to do that deep episode. So we got that coming. Our show voicemail line is 1-440-388-4434. Or Dr. Norge on Skype. We love having you a part of the show. So if you want to send us voicemails, please get them on. We air every voicemail we get from you, so we'd love to have you participate. Want to shout out our Facebook group. We have a wonderful Raging Bullets Facebook group. This is different from our Facebook page. It's a great, active, thriving community that has grown so far beyond the show, because there's just amazing, high-caliber, cool people that are friends that participate and post things all the time. Please, if you've got blogs, podcasts, even just other interests relating to geek culture, feel free to post them there. It's an active, thriving community that's not just about our show. It's grown really beyond that, and I just want to thank everyone participating there. I'm loving sometimes, if my schedule gets busy during the week and I can't always post in there, I love reading what people are posting. Some people will throw news up there. A lot of the news that went on this week, I found out first from our Facebook group, because of the cool people there. They're like, you know what, this is relevant to the show. I saw this. I'm just going to go post it to make sure our friends in the community know about it. I really appreciate that, and I think that's super cool that our community does that. So I want to thank everyone that just does stuff like that. We just have it's a great group of friends that are there, and I genuinely feel that way about the people that are in that community. So thank you for that. We're also on Google+. We're on Twitter. RagingBullets.com is our website. I update that every week with show news and content. Anytime there's changes to episodes or things like that, you can always find it there. And it links right into our Twitter feed, which then posts to our Facebook page. So however you like to get your news and information about the podcast, we're available there for you. So I can't tell you how much I appreciate our community. Our sponsors this episode are once again DCBService.com and InStockTrades.com. At DCBService.com, they have those crazy bundles again. DC New 52, 50% off bundle, only $83.74 for all 52 titles. Marvel's doing another bundle over there. They've got all the Marvel Now titles at 50% off, $70.81. I mean, that's $70.81 for all those titles, too. I mean, it's really crazy what you can get, like, these entire lines. Valiant's got a bundle. All 6 books for $11.79. Like, DCB Service has enabled me to be able to read more of the titles that I want because I'm able to maximize. And I know you feel the same way about this. It was great when we did that most recent Pop Culture and Whatnot episode. I like when you throw out titles where you're like, I know you probably aren't reading this, but I think it's cool. And you shock me with the things that you go and grab. But don't you find, Jim, that you try out titles that you wouldn't have tried before because you have some flexibility in your budget to be able to do that now thanks to DCB Service?
Oh, God, yeah, big time. And actually, I'm very happy with the this last bundle they're doing on this last ordering because it allowed me, it freed up my comic budget to pick up a couple trades and some more. Actually, I'm getting more of the Invincible Ultimate collections. Because I'm like, hey, I got room in my budget this month. All right.
That's the thing, too, when you're trying to do hardcovers from, like, InStockTrades.com, use them as an example. They always do those amazing deals, same company, on trades and hardcovers and things like that. I try to save a certain amount of my budget each month for those books that I've been missing. Those titles that, getting a lot of buzz from fan community. From me, fan postings about things that they're digging always generate more interest from me because I'm looking for that thing that I'm not reading because of time that I need to bump up my stack. If I haven't purchased it, I want to make sure that I'm making the right purchases and putting those things higher up in my reading list to hit them eventually because people are. But Saga was a great example title. I started reading Saga late, but so many of our friends of the show were posting that they were digging that book. That got me reading that title. So, it's things like that make me jump to, and for me, I'm jumping on this $5.49 trade paperback. How do you miss that?
Yeah.
It's crazy nuts. So, that's the kind of thing. Go to InStockTrades.com, check them out. Thank you, DCBService.com, for your pre-order deals. It's enabling me as a fan to be able to maximize my support of this medium and my enjoyment for reading such a wide, diverse lineup of great product coming from around comics, because I think for fans, this is a great time to be a comic fan. There is literally something for everyone. So if you can't find a comic you're loving and enjoying right now, you're like really not trying at all. I don't get it. I think as a time as a fan, if you're feeling crabby, change what you're reading, because there's so much great product out there that I do believe there's something for everybody, and it's really, really cool. So thank you to both of those sites. Our next episode, as I mentioned, will be with Myron Rumsey. We're talking nothing but Green Lantern. We're going green again, baby. We will see you then.
Bye.
Flying through space and time, 1,000 different lifetimes. Faded for love and loss and incredibly clear sightlines. Swinging your mace around, such a practical outlook. Helping the JSA and occasionally supporting your own book. Hawkman, Hawkman, eagle eyes can't see. Hawkman, your plan and what you do to me. Villains are closing in, be they Thanin Guard or Egyptian. Working so hard to thwart you and Hawkgirl's mission. The odds are not on your side, and danger seems to stack up. Things would be so much easier if you would just call for backup. Hawkman, Hawkman, eagle eyes can't see.